Hello, everybody. This is Rob Fredette with the podcast Hodgepod, and I have another special guest. This is episode 99. I got one more, and I get to hit 100s. I have a special guest, Andrew McCarter. He is a gospel hip-hop artist, and he's been gracious enough to join me. And Andrew, welcome to Hodgepod. I'm looking forward to talking to you today for this episode.
Likewise. Thank you for having me.
Talk about your being a hip-hop artist, but you also do it through gospel hip-hop. And about that, if you would, and your influences, because I've heard your songs, and we'll talk about one that I heard getting ready for this. Talk about your background and how you got into music and where you are right now.
So basically, my background, raised up in the church. Mom and dad raised me up in the church all the way from a baby till pretty much to my adult years. And most of my musical background, my mom is actually a poet. My gift of music, just seeing my mom do her poetry, being around that creative space, that was a way that I got involved in my gospel music.
Interesting. So you said poetry. I guess you could say writing a song and lyrics is like poetry. Is that like for you in doing gospel hip hop?
Yeah. So for me, poetry, if you really look at poetry, you could pretty much say that's pretty much what I do is hip hop. Poetry is rhyming. So really music to me, I feel like it does evolve from poetry. That is a creative space that is in hip hop poetry.
So who were your influences as you were growing up? Because back in the day in the 70s and 80s when I was growing up, it was the Sugar Hill Gang, Run DMC, Dougie Fresh. I'm missing a few other ones, but those were the key ones back in LL Cool J in the late 80s. So what were some of your inspirations growing up, and how did you turn that into what you're doing now in the gospel hip hop?
Man, so growing up, I heard my dad would play a lot of music. I heard a lot of Run DMC, MC Hammer, a lot of people I heard. But my musical influences, I remember listening to the first album of Kanye, which was College Dropout. Hearing the album, I used to be a big Kanye fan. That College Dropout is such a classic album, but it's one of the first albums I actually got when I was a lot older. Like when I was young, I was able to actually purchase it.
Yeah.
So hearing that album, also some of my other influences, Kirk Franklin, I heard Raised Up in the Church. Mm-hmm. I heard a mixture of pretty much all kinds of music. But Kirk Franklin, The Truth, Lecrae, Trip Lee, some of those guys are also some of the greats when it comes to gospel hip-hop as well.
I remember Run DMC, Christmas in Hollis. That's one of my favorite songs, Christmas songs. I love that song. That's the whole beat, and it has a little Christmas in it. It's really awesome. You remember that song?
I do remember hearing that song. I do.
Yeah, that's a great song. So when you're putting your songs and your lyrics together, how long does that take? Because I've said many times, and I'll repeat it again, I do not know how to read a note or do anything musically. I'm not musically inclined. So how do you go about thinking about your song? Do you do the lyrics first, or do you have to get beats and flow for the song?
Most of the times I do like to get my tracks first, the beats. Mm-hmm. Different producers who I've been working with over the years. Henry Orem is one of the guys I know. He's a great producer I've been working with. Beat Champ is another guy as well who we've had a chance to collaborate production-wise. But most of my creative processes come from me listening to the beats first. There has been times where I will write a song and kind of fit it to the beat, but yeah. It's mostly beats for me, and I just write to it.
So how do you know when it's like the right song? Do you change your lyrics at all? Do you change or do you modify when you go through it? Because you must do many, many takes of it. Do you not?
Yeah, I do many takes. I know, like, especially when I'm in the studio, even though I may write it a certain way, I may get in the studio and record it a different way, get a different type of feel. So sometimes really when you're writing, that's that process of, yeah, this is the song, but sometimes, you may get a different idea. So some of my songs have been like that. I wrote something and then I got a different feel and then added something else to it. So it does happen that way a lot for me.
I've talked to people as well. Are you like driving in the car someday, or you walking, or you have a thought during the day? Do you put a lyric on your phone, or do you try to get a beat on your phone and like have it stick so you can come back to it later, so you can refer to it?
Yeah, I put a lot of my with the iPhone, you got the voice recorder, the voice memo. So I like recording like if I get like a melody, I'll resonate the melody, sound it out with my mouth. The melody, I keep a pen and a pad also. You can never go wrong with that. So a lot of times I write my lyrics down, or if I come up with a concept for a song, I put it down on paper so I don't forget it.
Yeah, you got to get it down right away, because if you try to come back to it, you're exactly right. There are times where I've forgotten to write down items, and then I'll forget what it is later on. So I wish I would have written it down. You're in Alabama, right?
Right.
So I'm just up the road from you here in Memphis, Tennessee. So talk about your living in Alabama, and are you an Auburn or Alabama fan? Let's get that out of the way first.
Man, I'm an Auburn fan. But hey, I like the game of football in general. Alabama is great too. You can never, I think it's just the game of football. If you really a fan and you enjoy sports, with college football, we get maybe 3 months of it. So I just enjoy the excitement. I enjoy the game and just watching, having those good moments of Saturday football.
I think their game's coming up, right? Have they played already, Alabama and Auburn? I don't know if they have or not.
Number one, it was a good game. I would say that. Of course, Auburn lost, but Alabama, man, they're great. You got to give it to them. Hats off to them.
Yeah, and we were talking before we jumped on. You had mentioned the college football season goes real fast, and I had forgotten they played. I can't believe the season just started, and all of a sudden we're talking playoffs and bowl games now. And they did play, so I got to get my timing right. Yeah. So as I've done, I like to do research, and I read on Spotify about the way you put your songs together. Your songs is having a smooth hip-hop flow with strong scripture-based lyrics. So talk about that, if you would, please.
Yes, so a lot of my lyrics are very versatile, but I use a lot of biblical context in my lyrics. Still great music, gospel hip-hop, but a lot of my music is very easy to understand. So even though it does have the gospel message in it, I make it easy to where people can understand what I'm saying. And that way everybody gets the message.
One of the songs that I really liked getting ready for this was Violence, and that came out in 2015. That is a powerful song, just the lyrics, the way you sing it. Talk about that song that you put together and how long that took you, if you can look back that far, and talk about that if you would.
Yeah, so Violence, during that time when I was creating that song, just, where I live at now, Montgomery, Alabama has a very high homicide rate, crime rate. And in that year, it was a lot of crime. That was a song that God gave me. So even when it relates to the melodies in the song, pretty much everything that you're hearing, I pretty much was telling my producer, hey, I kind of wanted to sound similar to this, have the tracks similar to this, but really just having that message to say, hey, we're not fighting against flesh and blood. So we really fighting against the enemy. So my message in that song is to get people to see, like, we got to stop the violence, because really we're not fighting against each other. It's really the enemy that we're fighting against. And so that was really pretty much the concept of that song. And the creative process, it took me about a week to 2 weeks to finish the song, with the writing and having the production together, getting in the studio and finishing it. So it's about a 2 week process.
How many takes did it take? I'm always fascinated by how long musicians and groups do takes. How many takes did it take you before you said, yep, that's it?
For the first and second verse, about 3 to 4 takes for each one.
Wow. How long is that in the studio?
Yeah.
How long is that in the studio? Is that a long time?
It can be. For me, that session was about a little bit over 2 hours, because the way the beat was made, we had to actually go back and adjust a few things, but that was about little bit over 2 hours. Normally when I do record, it's about a 2 hour session. But sometimes I think the longest session I've ever had has probably been right at 3 hours. But most of the time I usually finish a song within 2 hours just to have that extra room for creativity.
Yeah.
A lot of times, I was saying earlier, you can't write a song down, but if you get in the studio, you may get a different feeling. You may have something else in your spirit that you may want to write down, or you get another creative idea. So that was the process of Violence.
So do you perform in the Alabama area? And talk about that if you would, because you must have a good following or a great following.
Yeah, I do perform in the Alabama area. I performed for a lot of different events over the years, and even coming up now. I've been branching out more so outside of Alabama, but I've had a chance to perform at the Universal Soul Circus a few years back. That was a major milestone as well. Performing at the Rivers and Blues Fest. That's actually out of Wetumpka, Alabama. That's a big festival that they normally have. Quite a few festivals, quite a few churches I've been around the area. And now God is opening doors where I'm branching out on other states.
Yeah, so you got that, you get out maybe that comfort zone of Alabama, and now you're branching out, and then you get more and more confident, and then one big thing leads to another. So it's a process, isn't it?
You're right, it is.
So talk about, there's another song as well, Sin, that came out in 2014. Talk about that song, another powerful song.
Yeah, that song, when I first created that song, that was actually my first single that I actually put out. So that was like a single leading up to the EP. So we actually released that song. Shouts out to Tia, who was pretty much helping me come up with that creative process at the time. That song was a song leading up to the EP, pretty much saying that, hey, we have victory because what Jesus has done. And everybody know, hey, even though you sin and you fall short, that Jesus, he's faithful and just to forgive you of your sins. So that's the concept of that song, just saying, hey, we got the victory only because of what Jesus Christ has done for us.
Wow, that's quite inspirational. Talk about Spotify. Spotify has to be a great gauge to see what's going on with your music. So talk about that, because that's got to be quite an achievement just to get on Spotify. That's very impressive.
Yeah, with Spotify, that is a great platform to be on. The music has evolved over the years with streaming. We went from CDs, now we're into streaming. But you really have to be a big artist to really see the benefit of Spotify. And you can do it independently too as well, but it just takes time to really start seeing what you would like to see on Spotify.
So as you're putting your music together, talk about, I guess, the lyrics and when you put it to the song. I know you talked earlier about sometimes you do the lyrics first or you do the beats first. So talk about that, like when you integrate it, and you said you have a producer. That's very important as well.
So what I've been doing lately is having those talks with my producer and saying, hey, what's a great concept behind this project? What's a great concept? What can we talk about? What's going on in today's world? And so really just having that concept, that's a really powerful thing to help bring that project together. When it comes to the creative process of making a project, you got the lyrics and you got the production. But when you have that concept, you have that vision on how you want your project, then you mend things together. It's a powerful thing. So that's another creative process that I've been doing when it comes to putting out new music and more projects. Just having that great concept to say, hey, what is the concept behind this album? What's the concept behind this EP or this song that I want to get the message out?
Yeah, we just had a little gremlin on my computer where we lost the screen. So great job keeping the flow going. I had to get it back. I don't know how I got the video back, but we're good to go. So didn't miss a beat, Andrew. Thank you. Talk about also some of your, you talked about your influences. Is there any other genre that you look at as far as influences? I know you had talked about your growing up. So talk about that if you would, please. Just maybe some of the influences of other genres. Do you listen to 80s or 90s or listen to anything on your spare time or that?
Yeah, I love the 70s music. I like the 70s, and I also listen to a lot of classical music and a lot of jazz music.
Cool.
So three of my top genres that I really listen to: jazz, classical, and a lot of 70s music,
70s.
like the oldies.
Yeah, 70s is like Isaac Hayes and all those, trying to think of the group, Earth, Wind, and Fire. Man, my mind went blank there for a minute. Earth, Wind, and Fire, all that. And then classical music is great too, because you're able to, like, it's very relaxing. I have a classical music playlist on my iPhone. Sometimes I just get away from all that rock and roll and pop, and I just like listening to classical music. It soothes the mind.
Right.
What do you think about as well? I always say sports, and you hear it all the time, sports and music bring people together. Talk about that if you would, like when you're performing and when people are there, like when you go to a game, everybody's having a great time, but it's like that when you perform as well. You feed off of the crowd, right?
Yeah. Yes. So normally, man, I love performing. This is a gift that God has given me. So every opportunity I get to get on a platform and perform, the joy I get from that. And really it's a great time always, because you never know how it's going to bless somebody's life. You never know the reactions you're going to get from people. But I see that music is so powerful that it's a powerful tool, and it can bring people together. You can have great times listening to music. So when I'm performing, it's always a great experience, man. It's just being used by God and using the gift that he's given me, which is music, to bring people to him. So it's so much joy in that. Even when they see me perform, receiving encouragement as well, that's a blessing. But really, at the end of the day, when I look at me performing and when there's a crowd that's listening to my music, I know that he's getting the glory for it. And that's really the biggest thing for me that I find the most enjoyment, bringing people together to Christ. That's the biggest purpose for it.
I don't know. You have that. You said you had that God's gift. I am not I could not get in front of a crowd and sing. I'm a consumer of music. I know music. I can remember beats and things like that. I don't know what a note is. So I wouldn't be very good. I wouldn't remember lyrics. I wouldn't remember any of that stuff. I'd freeze on stage. So I always commend musicians, actors for doing what they do. I don't have that discipline or whatever that is that focuses, but I am a good consumer of movies and music. So that's very, very awesome how you do that. I don't know how you do it.
Man, it takes time. I've been doing this for a while. I would say I used to get nervous a little bit. That was like in my younger years, but I think I grew out of, stage fright years ago. Now when I'm up on stage, I zone in, like I connect with the people. I connect with God first, and then I connect with the people. And so that's what usually helped me is, hey, I tune in, I always pray before I perform. That's a big help, depending on God, not depending on myself. And so really with those keys, those main pointers, that's what helps me every time I perform.
So you mentioned prior to an event, you said you don't get as nervous as you used to. Do you rehearse, and do you make sure you got everything before you get there? Your mind is right. Do you rehearse as well?
Yeah, I rehearse. Depending on if I'm driving, I'm usually listening to it on my phone. If I'm flying, listen to it on my phone. Also rehearsing as well. Sometimes day before, sometimes the day of as well. And so that's a big help as well. Also, always remembering your music is very important. And every time you perform it, it's like you're doing it all over again. So always have the enjoyment of doing those things.
Do you have any projects coming up? You have quite a lengthy career, but do you have anything coming up in the 2025, or are you working on anything?
Yeah, new music. Got a song called Clear Skies that's going to be releasing soon. I'm working on the up-and-coming EP as well, new shows as well. But you'll definitely be seeing a lot of new music coming out in 2025. I'm very excited.
Clear Skies, that sounds like an uplifting song just from the title of the song.
Yeah, it's talking about just the concept behind that song. It talks about in the word where it says write the vision and make it plain. And so just telling people, don't give up on what God has given you, the gift that he's given all of us. You know, we all have a purpose in life, and God has given us special gifts. And I do believe when you have that vision, you bring it before him. A lot of us we get discouraged, or if we feel like it's taking a long time, you kind of lose that excitement of, is this going to happen? And so that's really the concept of the song, of just saying, hey, write the vision out, make it plain, and just remember that if God gave you this vision, then he definitely will make it come to pass. But we have to do our part in doing the work as well.
Yeah, that's I can't wait to hear that song Clear Skies. It just has a nice flow to it, and I can't wait to hear your new album. Talk about, are you a sports fan?
I am. I do like sports.
So do you have a favorite football team? Who's your favorite NFL team or NBA team? Who do you like?
Oh man, my favorite team for the NFL would be the Commanders. They used to be the Washington Redskins. Right. I would say NBA would be the Houston Rockets and the Golden State Warriors. Those are two of my main teams. Baseball, I'm an Atlanta Braves fan.
Yeah, they're good.
So, yeah.
Okuna's a really good player. Okuna, yeah. Austin Riley, awesome players. So what other things you got in the pipelines coming up as well with the album moving forward?
Yeah, so when that project comes out, I'm also having shows as well. So definitely working on new shows as well. So there will be some things where you want me to come out if you're having something, or if you want to get me for a show, you'll be able to reach out to me. But also there will be some shows that I'll be doing. So definitely be looking out for that as well. That's what I have coming on the way.
Do you have an agent, or do you do everything on your own?
Pretty much for me, independent, no agent as of yet, but pretty much do everything on my own. There's a balance, it's a sacrifice, but I just really make time and have that time management to where it's not really as hard as what you make it, like anything else. But yeah, independently do everything.
And do you make videos for your songs as well?
I wish I did, but but
man, you should make videos.
Yeah, hey man, that's definitely more time.
Yeah, you're right. You're right.
Yeah, that's definitely a gifted area to do video, man. So I wish I did, though. That would definitely be dope.
That'd be awesome, because I remember when MTV came out in the 80s, all these groups had all these videos out, and it just enhanced their music. But yeah, videos are very, very captivating on music. So yeah, that'd be great if you did videos as well. You got the song, you could just think of a concept for a video and just shoot it. Heck, you could shoot it with your iPhone if you wanted to.
Man, hey, I appreciate that idea. Now, I do have images, a video to image. If you guys want to look at that as well, that's to a song that I did. I do have a music video to that if you want to check that out as well.
So talk about your social media sites where people can find your work, and then also on Spotify, where they can find you on Spotify. It'd just be your name, Andrew McCarter, right?
Yeah, yes. If you want to check me out on Spotify, Apple Music, Andrew McCarter. You can find me on Facebook, Andrew McCarter Music. Instagram is going to be McCarter, McCarter Music. It's going to be all together. You can find me on all those platforms. And you can actually reach out to me if you want to book me for a show, whatever the case may be. But TikTok as well, at Andrew McCarter Music. You can find me on there as well.
TikTok, how's TikTok doing for you? Because TikTok is massive.
Yeah, it's going great. That's another process within itself, but it's definitely a big help. Any social media, it just really depends on how you manage it and how much time you put into it. But it's definitely beneficial. It's going great.
I don't know how. I've tried to use TikTok. I don't understand it. I don't know how to use it. I would do something stupid on it and then millions of people would see it probably, but I don't know how to use it. So I've tried several times and I'm not very successful. So
Gotcha.
So talk about, I have my AirPods and I have my earbuds and I put them on. I listen to music and when I go for a walk or if I'm driving in the car. So the last song I heard today was an 80s, 90s band, REM. I heard Stand. Song came out in 1989 on my AirPods. So I always like to ask my guests, what was the last song you heard on your playlist, and talk about that?
The last song I actually heard on my playlist was by Jackie Hill Perry. It was called Pick It Up.
I'll have to, I've never heard of, the name of the artist again?
Jackie Hill Perry.
All right. I'm going to, after we get off here, I'm going to listen to it. But that's, I always like asking. So what about that song? What do you like, and talk about that?
Yeah. So that song, the concept, see, Jackie Hill Perry, very dope artist. She's very poetic. So you really have to really pay attention to her lyrics. Very catchy, very powerful. But to me, the song is pretty much just talking about picking up the pace. That's what I pretty much get from the song. But it's a powerful song. That was off her latest EP called Practice. Definitely a great song, great artist, Jackie Hill Perry.
You may look at music differently than I do. Like you just said, picking up pace. I hear a song and I'll hear things. So you must pick up little intricacies and little nuances of songs, lyrics, melodies, things of that nature. So you see it on a different angle than I would. So I'm a consumer, but you're an artist. So what are some things that may differentiate you, how you listen and how I listen to music, I guess, is my question.
I would say from the artist perspective, man, we love we're big on production. So we're big at listening to the production. That's a big thing for us. But most importantly, the lyrics as well. But the production is really going to catch us, and the lyrics, we're big on that. I know for me, I love wordplay. It's another word for lyrics, another word for rhyme. But from my perspective, we're big on production and just the lyrics from an artist perspective.
You mentioned MC Hammer earlier in the episode here. I don't know. Have you ever heard a song that he sang called Pray? Have you heard that song?
I would have to listen to it. It's because it's been a minute. It's been a minute since I heard
he samples.
MC.
He samples a Prince song for that song Pray, and it's really a really good tune. I listened to it the other day, as a matter of fact, and I was like, man, I hadn't heard that song in 30 years. But give it a listen, I think you would really like it. It speaks volumes back then when he sang that song. It's pretty cool.
Okay.
So talk about anything else that you want to talk about as far as your career that maybe we didn't cover?
Yeah, I would definitely say, well, like, earlier, new music coming out also. I'll be doing some shows, up and coming events. And then if you want to book me for a show, you can reach out to me through my social media as well. I'd be more glad to come out and be a blessing.
Yeah.
So I'm just about.
Talk about some of the shows that you got coming up in certain areas in the Southeast. Talk about those.
Yeah, so I do know I will be having some stuff coming up in Georgia, some other stuff on the horizon, but not really set in stone as of yet. But we definitely working on some stuff in Georgia, here locally as well. So I'll be pretty much I'll be doing a lot of traveling and stuff like that.
Well, I want to thank Andrew McCarter for coming on my podcast. I really enjoyed this. A gospel hip hop artist, and he talked about his inspirations. He talked about his couple of his songs, Violence and Sin. He's got some new work coming out in 2025. And Andrew, I really want to thank you for coming on my podcast. And hopefully after the new year, if you want to come back again when your new album comes out, I would love to have you back on.
Yeah, most definitely, man. Thank you for having me. It was a blessing being a part of your show, your podcast.
Thank you.